Thor, God of Thunder. The Norse with a hammer-wielding god associated with thunder, lightning, storm, strength and brave. Thor was popular in group of the Norse people whom lived in the region called Scandinavia, which includes present-day Sweden, Denmark, Iceland, and Norway. In the 9th century, the Norse people known as the Viking invaded and settled other places in Europe. Like all cultures across the world, the Viking also had their own gods and goddesses. In Norse belief there were 9 worlds as Asgard, Alfheim, Vanaheim, Jotun, Nidavlar, Helheim, Niflheim, Muspelheim, and Midgard. There were a part of a giant tree called Drissel, or the World Tree. Ginnungagap, a vast emptiness, separated Niflheim, the land of ice, from Muspelheim, the land of fire. As the heat from Muspelheim began to melt the Niflheim ice, the drops of water that fell on Ginnungagap created Ymir, the first giant. With him also appeared Audumla, the divine cow. Audumla licked at the frost and salt around Ymir for food. Her constant licking caused Buri, the first man, to emerge. Meanwhile, a group of giants emerged out of Ymir's body. Buri had a son, Bur, who married Bestla, the daughter of one of the giant. Bur and Bestla had 3 children: Odin, Vili, and Vi, the first gods. In the war with the giant, Odin and his brothers killed Ymir. From the giant's body, the brothers created the sky and Midgard, the land of humans. All the other giants, except Ymir's grandson and his wife, drowned in Ymir's blood, giving rise to rivers, lakes and seas. Thor, the god of thunder, was the son of Odin and Jord, goddess of the earth. She was identified as a giant, making Thor half Jotun. Thor's heritage provided an interesting contrast with his noted enmity for the Jotnar. By way of Odin, Thor had many prominent half-brothers including Baldur, Vali, and Vidar. Other half-brothers included Tyr, Heimdall, Bragi, and Hodr. Thor was often depicted as a strong man with a red beard, red hair and eyes of lightning. Among his many abilities, Thor commanded storms and rain, and brought lightning and thunder. Due to his prodigious sexual appetite and his aptitude for impregnating women, Thor was also associated with fertility. He wielded a warhammer called Mjolnir. He also caused lightning by throwing his hammer. Thor kept company with his 2 servants, the twins Thjalfi and Roskva. He rode in a chariot pulled by the goats Tangrinr and Tangnjoster. Remarkably, Thor regularly slaughtered the goats and ate them, only to resurrect them with Mjolnir so that they could continue to pull his chariot, and fill his stomach. Thor married golden-haired Sif, a goddess associated with faith, family, and fertility. With Sif, Thor had a daughter known as Thudr, who may have become a Valkyrie. Outside his marriage, Thor had a regular lover, Jarnsaxa. With his Jotun lover, Thor had a son named Magni, strength. He also had many casual lovers and one-night stands. At least one of these encounters produced a son, Modi, courage, though the boy's mother was not identified in any surviving Norse texts. Mjolnir, the hammer of Thor. The story of how Thor got his hammer was told in Snorri Sturluson's Skaldskaparmal of the Prose Edda, and began with the typical antics of Loki, who mischievously cut off all of Sif's golden hair. Understandably angry at this slight, Thor seized Loki, and would have broken every bone in him. Loki promised to make amends, however, by traveling to Svartalfheim, the home of the dwarves located in the caverns beneath the earth. Dwarves perished in the sunlight, and thus were always skulking underground. There, Loki would find the dwarves' master builders and ask them to construct a new head of hair for Sif. True to his word, Loki traveled to the home of dwarves and found the sons of Ivaldi, master craftsmen who fashioned new hair for Sif and 2 other masterworks, the unbreakable ship Skidbladnir, and the deadly spear Gungnir. Loki did not return to the gods just yet, however, for he saw an opportunity and concocted a clever plan. He sought out the dwarf brothers Brokkr and Sindri and taunted them, claiming that they could never craft anything as perfect as the creations of the sons of Ivaldi. Taking the bait, The brothers went to work and came back with 3 masterworks of their own. There was Gullinbursti, a golden-haired boar that could glow in the dark, run through any substance, and travel faster than horses. There was Drapnor, a golden ring that sprouted 8 identical rings every 9th night. Last, but certainly not least, was Mjolnir, the Crusher. When Loki returned to Asgard, he gave the new hair for Sif and Mjolnir to Thor. The hammer was heavy, and only the Thunder God had the strength to wield it. The other prizes Loki divvied up between Odin and Freya. Jormungandr, the Nemesis. Thor hated many creatures, but none so much as Jormungandr, the sea serpent of Midgard. Jormungandr was one of the 3 monstrous offspring of Loki and the giantess Angrboda, the others being the wolf, Fenrir, and who presided over a kind of underworld, also called Hel, where the souls of the dead gathered. After Jormungandr's birth, Odin hurled the monstrosity into the seas surrounding Midgard. The monster eventually grew so large that it completely encircled Midgard and held its own tail in its mouth. Thor and Jormungandr tangled multiple times, but the most famous story played out across multiple sources, including the Gylfaginning and a poem called the Heimskringla in the Poetic Edda. The encounter was part of a long and rambling story about Thor's search for a cauldron large enough to brew beer for all the gods. Knowing that the giant Hymir possessed such a beastly cauldron, Thor set out to find him. When Thor found the giant, the two went fishing with Thor using the head of Hymir's best ox as bait. Once at sea, Hymir caught several whales while Thor ensnared none other than the Serpent of Midgard, Jormungandr. Ecstatic, Thor hurled the serpent onto the deck of the ship and smashed him with Mjolnir. Sources disagreed about what happened next, with the Heimskringla claiming that the monster wriggled free and escaped back into the ocean, and the Gylfaginning claiming that Hymir set Jormungandr free. Either way, the serpent lived to fight another day. The story concluded with Hymir attacking Thor and Thor slaying him in turn. The serpent at Ragnarok. Thor and Jormungandr were fated to meet again during Ragnarok, the fate of the gods and the end of days for the Norse. According to the predictions offered by the Volva narrator of the Voluspa, the events of Ragnarok would begin when the Serpent of Midgard released its tail from its mouth and wriggled onto dry land. There it would join its brother Fenrir, who would set the world aflame while Jormungandr filled the air with poison. Thor and Jormungandr would meet one last time, and while Thor was fated finally to kill his foe, he would sustain mortal wounds in the process. Thor would take 9 steps after felling the serpent before succumbing to the serpent's poison and dying. 9 paces fares the son of Jorgen. And, slain by the serpent, fearless he sinks. That is the Thor, God of Thunder myth. Thank you for watching our video. If you don't want to miss about myths and another creatures, let you follow our channel by click subscribe button.